You ever think about quitting?
It's the combat of life hammering the snot out of you.
Well, stand by, dig in deep, and get ready to get fired up with us.
Welcome to the Team Never Quit podcast, the #1 podcast that inspires you to fight on. I'm your host, David Rutherford, here with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell.
Our mission is to help you embrace the suck of life, to teach you the values of working your ass off, and to interview the most hard-charging people on planet Earth.
We know life is hard. It's time for you to suck it up, Buttercup, and let us teach you to persevere in every environment imaginable by sharing real-world lessons learned by those who never quit. That's right. It's time, Marcus, for us to help them defeat the negative insurgency in their lives.
You fire me up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll.
Let's roll. All right, are you ready? Marcus, I gotta tell you, this one has just got, when you want to ascend to one of the highest places that you can go in life, when you want to get there, when you want to travel, when you want to push up higher, which is why our guests are here with us on the Team Never Quit podcast, you got to have a show that's going to be inspiring. You got to have a show that's going to want to lift them up, right?
You know what the best ones are is when someone says that they've achieved something and you can actually see it and know what they're talking about. It's a tangible deal. A lot of people, education, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect example of what I'm talking about, right?
I've got a doctorate degree in psychobabalicious.
On that piece of paper right there. Someone said I was good enough.
Yeah.
Hey, what these dudes do,
it's big.
Right. You know what I'm saying? They're not just, the good enough ain't coming home with them to hang on the wall. They had to go out and get it and climb it.
And there, it's there. All right, slow down. Before we get in there, I just want to welcome everybody onto the guest wizard. As you always give me that eyeball, make sure we welcome people. Make sure everybody knows who we are, why we're here, what we're doing. So I'm David Rutherford, former Navy SEAL motivational speaker. I'm here with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell.
Hello.
That's Marcus's. This is Marcus.
I'm fired up, man. Yeah.
That's his midnight voice.
That's my sick voice. We need to embrace the fact that I am not feeling well, right?
Check. I will admit it.
You motivate, because I probably do not sound like myself right now over the radio, right? I got this.
I hear the same guy that I always hear.
That's the problem. Thinking about having an identical twin.
Right? Because we'll bring Morgan in and he'll just sit in.
You know how fired up I am, dude, because when I do get sick, I don't like to do nothing. But I'm fired up.
And you're on with me.
Yeah, we're rolling.
So we're here on the Team Never Quit podcast. And if this is your first time listening, man, welcome to the team, because you're in for a treat. Because what we do on the TNQ podcast is we introduce you to amazing human beings who share their greatest never quit stories of their lives. And when they do that, they give you some insight into, hopefully in your life, to ignite that fire that's in your gut, to ignite that thing in you. Because what we say here at the TNQ podcast is great stories ignite legends. And we want you to become the legend like the people we have on, right?
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of what we do. We're a positive show. We want to inspire human beings with the experiences, not only ours, but these amazing people that we have on board. And today's guests, I'll tell you what, are amazing. But before that, listen, if you want to know more about us, please visit our website at teamneverquit.com/podcast. That's teamneverquit.com/podcast. And when you get there and you start listening to the shows, do us a favor and tell your friends. Spread the word. Get it out here that there's finally a podcast in with people that are bringing authentic stories about never quitting, man.
That's it. Reconnecting everybody who listens to this, like we say.
We're all coming from the same place, right?
Everybody came in here to hear an extraordinary story. And we're telling you how ordinary the people were that they got into them. Yeah, and connecting them like that.
That's what blows me away, right? It's not like when anybody we've had on so far, they get on the air, man, and they're normal people. Yeah. That all of a sudden, when they tell the backstory about how they got where they're at, man, and like, oh hell, everybody has to go through that. Yeah, like, all right,
where's the divide? Where's someone's stopping point as opposed to another, right? What causes that? Why
up in our brains?
Right. That's what we
and in our hearts.
That's what we're figuring out
right now. I mean, we're figuring out. I mean, you and I know it. I mean, we've
but no one talks about it like that. We bring
not like we do.
Like the perspective, multiple perspectives from multiple different vantages, from multiple different views, from multiple different experiences. Right. That's how we're able to pull these people on here, tell them the most exceptional people that we even know. Right. Pull them on here and have them tell us how they got it done. And behind the curtain, like we always like to say, man, is what everybody can do. Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we get going, so what we traditionally like to do at the beginning of every story is just share with you a cool little segment from history or a group of people or a person or a family from history that we believe there's some inspiration to. Because a lot of times I think Marks and I, we love history. And so, but history's fading away, and these great stories of great people and what their accomplishments, they're kind of fading away. So we like to bring that back to get the show rolling before we bring the guests on. So today's historical dynamic duo that'll help inspire you to listen to the dynamic duo that we got coming on are really is pretty an amazing thing, right? It's Theodore Roosevelt and Theodore Roosevelt Jr. Right. Now, I know people are like, well, why do I need to hear about them, Marcus? What in the world? We'll get to that. What in the world can they teach me? Here's a beautiful thing, man, and you said this, and if this is true, I hadn't thought about it like that, but you said that history's fading, right? Absolutely. Man, we're bringing the people on here who are making history, right? Living history. Right now. Yeah. So the people the youngins coming up that are going to learn this are reading about the people that we're bringing on in the books. That's the new history. You keep going further. So what we like to do is tell you that, hey, we're bringing the modern day history makers on this show right now, and we're giving you a little perspective on. There was some history makers back in the day that were just that needs to be remembered. You know what I mean? Absolutely. It's a line. We're not reinventing anything. Well, some people are. You know, we'll have some of them on there. We certainly have some of them. Right. And the young man that's coming on, he did. For the most part, man, you get it from somewhere else. Absolutely. Right? You get that idea, and it sparks more ideas. That's how you go off. Well, the thing that you always talk about that I love is, man, you know, if you see a great movie, right? Put yourself in that movie. What do you think you're looking at, man? I am a walking movie and book cliche. Everything that comes out of me is something I have seen or learned and then put to use. It's that easy. And generally in a superhero format. Sure, man. But I like to say I am a straight down. If you had a Walter and Dude had a son, it would be me. That's the best way I like to describe myself. I am from the Big Lebowski. Yeah. I am a Walter and Dude combo blown together, and I am the result of that. I used to think it was Little Bill Daggett from Unforgiven. Unforgiven. Yeah, I got a little Bill in me. You got a little Bill. Probably a lot of Little Bill. Actually, I am Little Bill. Still, let's take away Walter and the Dude, because that blew my mind. I was trying to wrap my head, and I was not getting there. You love the Big Lebowski, right? I love the Dude. I am. You know me, man. Most people. I don't see the Dude in you that much. That easygoing spirit. Check, Roger. Yeah, there's kind of the perspective on life, right? The way I look at things. Right. Most people don't know that because I'm not a shut-in, but I have my friends. Yes. And they're like, I didn't think he was funny. I didn't think he was less laid back. But I am very much Walter. You know what I mean? That's the problem. Is I can. What's he do? He pulls the gun, the 45, the 1911. It's like, you can't. This is suddenly ignite. That damn master with a 9-toe woman. Stop talking about the damn toe. I can get to that too, man. But for the most part, around my house, man, you're the dude, right? I mean, I'm a dad now and a husband. I just love. It's funny, man, because those of us who train so hard to be like Walter, when we get to this age, man, we wind up like the dude, right? You try. That's kind of the point, thing, right? Yeah. That's the purpose, right? To get to that point to where you can do and handle yourself, but man. It's not really necessary in most occasions. Just kind of let back and the dude abides, right? The dude abides. All right, so we got way off track. That was the rabbit hole. You know how far down the rabbit hole we just got? But don't worry, I got our carabiner up top on the safety line. I'm pulling us back up. Right. Although I hate those Jumar things, dude.
Oh, man. That's a young man's thing.
Oh, and we're getting to that
You know what I'm
later.
talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Dudes like us be like, what? I'm not using that. I'm not going if we got to use that.
If I got to pull my big ass
up that right.
and my plates, my bag, my ruck, my med bag.
Not happening, man.
Now,
Call a helicopter.
Now,
you know what I mean?
Spy rigging.
Right, yeah.
Up. I'd rather have
I'd rather take that pain. Yeah, I'd rather take spy rigging pain than do that.
Now, if you're not familiar with spy rigging is, let me tell you, spy rigging is where they pull out this long rope on the bottom of a helicopter. You get next to your buddy in this harness that, if you've ever worn a climbing harness, for men, it can be very uncomfortable, a certain area, right? And so the spy harness lifts you up, and as you go higher and higher, that area gets cinched down more and more. And so I remember when I was a new guy, and we went out, on the amphib base, and they're like, all right, here we go, spy rigging checkoffs, all new guys, up.
Yep.
We flew we did a lap around the entire San Diego Bay, right?
Yeah.
Man, I talked soprano for almost a week after that.
Well, what the worst part that you don't realize is the rope. So the shackles have to be close together because when we're in the water, right?
Absolutely.
Being the bottom dude, and while that helicopter just doesn't jerk our ass around all of us at the same time, you know, unless he's pissed at us, right?
They're upset.
Yeah. So he'll try and ease you out. Well, that bottom man is drowning his ass. His bodies are running. You know what I'm talking about? You can't. It's literally a breath hold.
For a tell
while you're getting drugged through the ocean, so they're pulling you out of the water, dude. And I'm talking. Look, man, I know all you climbers. You know the rigging. You know what we're talking about when you're dallied into the side of a mountain, and it's kind of right. It doesn't.
Oh, it hurts.
Well, with a helicopter, it's an up and down and a left and right because it's getting jerked because of the wind.
Oh my god!
And you're down there like a snot hanging out of a nose, dude. And I mean. You're trying to be cool and do the Superman. No,
you can't be cool.
No, you're trying to fly and then look around. Like,
Get your legs out.
Like, yes, exactly. And you got some ass who's not even on the rig going, spread your legs. Spread your legs. Do you realize what's wedged in between my legs right now?
No.
I can't spread them.
I'm
literally locked together with the other dude's crotch right on top of my head. Right? Right?
Oh, all right.
You
ready? All right. So the historical, and the reason why we picked this is because we've got a father and son coming on next, right? Our guest today, awesome guest. Got a father son. So what we wanted to do is go back and they have, the guests coming on, huge influence on one another and towards pushing themselves in the great never quit moments of their lives. And this is substantial. So when we went back and dug in, or the wizard started digging in, and we actually, Marcus and I aren't much help at all in that particular area because we're knuckleheads and knuckle draggers, but the wizard found this great one, and we believe this is awesome. Now, who we picked was Theodore Roosevelt Sr. and Teddy Jr. Now you ask why and how is it going to be relevant? Well, one, first and foremost, it's the commitment of a father to a son. And Marcus and I are sure we're going to tell you a couple stories about our father and our dads and how they influence us. But these two, what was remarkable was when Teddy Jr. was growing up, he was plagued with asthma to the point where he was very feeble and sickly on a regular basis. And it's funny, if you go and research some of this stuff, some of the crazy stuff they used to do, they're like, hey, kids, smoke cigars. It'll help you. Right, That's my favorite one. Do you remember that first one where your dad's like, oh, you want to smoke? Here you go.
Whiskey, huh?
Yeah. Oh, you want to drink some whiskey? Have a drink of this, right?
That was bad.
Probably a bad idea because I loved it. Never mind. Anyway, so.
I got the point, though. The first time?
Oh, yeah.
When you got to smash a handle of whiskey down your throat.
Yeah.
You ain't ready for that.
No, it was horrible. Anyway, but the cool thing about it was that Theodore Roosevelt Sr., and this guy was an amazing guy. He was really wealthy, but he was, he had all these charities with boys' orphanages. He was a real committed guy to the community and to society and all that. But he was so committed to Theodore Jr. that he instilled in him this drive to say, hey, listen, granted, you're smart as heck, youngster, and I love it, and you're training your mind, but you got to train your body too. You got to push yourself.
The person who wrote this obviously didn't grow up out like that.
No.
When you're reading about somebody, especially if you know if they grew up, and it's as easy as if they grew up in the city or the country.
Yeah.
You can tell who wrote it. if the city boy wrote, if someone's from the city wrote it about somebody from the country, it's not right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
And it's like, people are like, oh, he was so hard on him. He's raising him. No, he wasn't. He put him in the same thing my dad did to me, man. He put me in every situation he probably could so I would understand it.
Now, why do you think? Why do you think he wanted to do that?
Well, he was sick, and look, man. When I had a weakness or if I wasn't good at something, man, my dad, I didn't. Truthfully, I didn't have anything that plagued me. I had strabismus. I was cross-eyed real bad, and I was skinny and all that stuff like that. But that ain't
none of the plagues.
Right, asthma not back in the day, right?
Yeah, because that could kill you back then.
I know some of my cousins and stuff like that. The way it works is you focus them on something, take their mind off of that ailment,
which is correct.
Right,
yep.
And what that does is it shows you that you're capable of anything, even if you got it. Because a lot of that stuff, when you get out there, especially out in the country, man, when you start working, you don't have time to think about something hurting or something I got. And then when you're done with it, he's like, see, I told you, you're capable of this, man.
Well, what I love is that he was so aware of saying, hey, just because we're wealthy doesn't mean you're going to make it through this.
Absolutely. Right. And that's what you need, man. Because, and who was saying that the other day? It was tough, right?
Right.
Because all the stuff that we've all been through, man, and some of it was bad. I mean, we ended up in the hospital or in jail or whatever it was.
Whatever it might be.
But do you notice that those are the times that we learn the most?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right, or had the best story from.
In the greatest level of pain.
Right. And I'm not talking about hurting killing somebody and stuff like that. I'm just talking about general conduct that the general masses deemed inappropriate.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Not child abuse.
No. Right. Just general mischief, being an outlaw kind of deal.
Yeah.
And what was my point?
Well, your point is that when fathers see their sons and they need that proper influence, they're going to push them out. They're going to make them feel a little bit of pain,
about the hard time. Right. It's okay.
Right.
Like I literally think that I trained my whole life to be a father.
Right.
And I remembered everything and I wrote it down and I studied it. So, look, man, I know how much pain he can take before he's really hurt.
Right.
Crying and a little blood's not really hurting. You know what I'm talking about? Yep. If we're out here playing baseball or football or riding horses and he falls off.
You get back up.
Right. Hey, we talked about what's the worst sound a human being makes, right? It's when the wind's knocked out of him.
Hey!
You can't even replicate it unless somebody literally punches you in the chest and your soul flies out of your body, okay? I learned more lessons
that way
in
that moment
than I ever did sitting down and someone telling me how bad it sucked.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And irregardless of how much, my favorite commercial is that dad. I think it's a car commercial. Right. But his son's playing somewhere, and his dad goes running over and grabs him, but he takes the hit. The dad keeps taking the hit. Of course, we're gonna do that, dude. That's a little bit. Yeah, we're gonna pull out. But I mean, there are times when I'm stepping back and I'll see people like, I'm like, let it play out.
Yeah, you got to, because it builds the character, right?
Man, just let it play out. Because I would not let you hurt yourself to a point to where
you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what Theodore Roosevelt Sr. was doing. He saw the potential in his son, but because of the weakness, because of how bad he was and how he struggled, I think that really made things more difficult, could have made things more difficult if he hadn't pushed his son, which he did. And the beauty of it is his son decided, you know what, my old man's right. I'm going to push myself harder. I'm going to
in the beginning, especially back in those days, and even now, look, some people are like, hey, you're pushing this on your son. You're pushing your son. Well, he's a kid. He doesn't know anything yet. I'm not pushing him. I'm teaching him.
I like that.
You know what I'm talking about?
I like that. And so often in our society, people misconstrue the lesson that needs to be used with making your kid uncomfortable, right?
Bringing that kid into this world was dangerous. and look, chaos and pain is definitely a matter of perspective.
Absolutely.
People think we're nuts for jumping out of an airplane. I think we're nuts for jumping out of an airplane. I hate that. You know I hate it. My hands start sweating just thinking about it. But damn it. I gotta do it.
You gotta do it.
My boys are going. I'm going.
You knew it because we knew when you accomplish that and you push yourself and you become strong, both physically, mentally, and spiritually, then you're able to create great things. One of the things that his dad said to him, he goes, Theodora, you have the mind, but you don't have the body. You must make your body, right? And you can hear the old cat saying that to him, and it invests in his heart, and he pushes him. So what happens to Theodore Roosevelt?
You know how I always explain that happens? You build a temple,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Have you ever seen temples around the world? They don't all look the same, man.
At all.
When you build your body around what's going on inside, if there is a deficient part of it,
Right.
you build around it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You mold yourself. You mold what you got. And it's always funny to me. And Wizards, is the perfect example of this right now. So how often do you use your lesser hand, your weaker hand?
Almost never.
Correct. But if it gets cut off, it's always, then for some reason, it becomes a great tragedy. I lost my hand. Dude, you never use the son of a bitch anyways. If it's your dominant hand, you learn. Don't get me wrong. I know it sucks when you lose an appendage. Trust me. I've seen it. I got my boy. I get that. But my point is, it's not life-ending, right?
No, you rise to the occasion.
You see these kids with nothing but toes.
Yeah.
Getting it done.
Getting it done.
And I just think that whole pain and terror is a matter of perspective, and so is teaching. If you have somebody whose matter of perspective is, I can handle damn near anything.
Absolutely.
And I know how far I can go before the human body really starts to take a hit, mentally and physically.
And spiritually.
Correct.
Absolutely.
All that, we talk about those pillars.
Yep.
And why my son was going to be ready.
Oh, for sure.
And my daughter.
And if you don't do it, my old man always used to.
Somebody else is going to.
Oh, well, the problem is
hey, look, man, a perfect example of that is with weapons.
Okay.
Look, people are so scared of weapons that they keep their children away from. Yeah, you keep children away from. My son knows not to even look at that thing.
Yeah.
Then the way I was taught, when I get to a certain, I didn't touch a gun until I was 11, but I knew exactly what it was capable of and everything about it.
Right.
And then, you're not a kid anymore. Now you're this, so I'm going to show you what this is and what it does, and I'm going to teach you the safety. And then after you learn the safety for these many years, I'm going to teach you how to shoot it.
Right.
There is no deader than graveyard dead. My godfather said that every day.
That's for sure.
All right. But if you don't teach that child the proper way to handle a weapon, movies will.
That's the problem.
Someone else is going to. That's what you're telling me, right? You're telling me that I hate guns or I hate weapons so much that I don't want to have anything to do with them. I'm going to let somebody else teach my kid how to do it.
Well, and that's the perspective I think that we're trying to drill down on right here with this story that leads into our guest, is the fact that, people out there are always going to question how other people raise their kids.
Sure, because we live together.
Because we live together, right? But here's the deal. I mean, if you're a solid parent, a solid person, your perspective on that pain and that fear and all that is going to be different than others. But that
goes deeper. That goes to like towns, man, and neighborhoods. That's divided by just geographically divided
cultural differences.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's literally in a span of a mile, two families will think completely different or something like that.
Right.
And that's when you stop interacting with each other. As towns used to, remember?
Absolutely.
Town square, everybody knew everybody. So if that kid got out of line, you're like, oh, that's old Luttrell boy.
Yeah.
I call his daddy.
And
snatch his ass up. Call his daddy because he's gonna get whipped right here in front of everybody.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I've been whipped in front of everybody. You know what I'm talking about? It didn't ruin my life. I just didn't do that again.
The point we're trying to make, all right, if you're confused, is that the fact is that if you want to become great and learn your never quit story, you've got to accept some hardships, some challenges, some discipline, something that's going to fortify you. Because ultimately, when you look at Teddy Roosevelt Jr., his dad died young, 46 years old, from cancer that he hid from the family. What did Teddy Roosevelt go on to do? Become one of the greatest presidents in our nation's history. And that's what happens. That's what needs to happen.
Look, when you got a kid who's sick, man, and they know that they're sick, that's what they know.
Yeah.
The best part about having an adult around is when they're looking down at you and they repeatedly tell you, hey, it's going to be all right.
Right.
Ain't going to be no big deal. You accomplished greatness. Asthma could mean anything to a kid. It could be life-ending because they can't do something, right? As simple as that.
Absolutely.
If you got somebody backing you up,
you're going to do great things. You're going to climb to great heights.
At the very least, you can think that you can, right?
Well,
and that's how it starts, right? You're like, in my head, I believe in myself because my dad believed in me, and all I needed to do was just take a step forward. And then one step led to him being our president.
Well,
right?
I'll tell you what, our next guests have gone on some steps, some huge steps, some absolutely incredible steps. And so I want to, get them on, bring them on. But I want to first let you know we've got Jordan and Paul Romero, and maybe you haven't heard of them, maybe you have, but let me tell you what, Jordan Romero is the youngest human being in human history to summit Mount Everest. He made this climb May 2010 at 13 years old. But that's not all about Jordan that's remarkable. Not only did that, at 9, he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, youngest there, Mount Elbrus in Russia, Mount Aconcagua in Argentina. Did I get that right?
What did I tell you about that? Say Argentina, damn it, and India. You know what I mean? What was it the other day?
Denali.
Don't try and say those words.
Denali. I'm the smart one.
Right.
Denali in 2008, right? And then Mount Karastensis, which is a pyramid in Indonesia.
It has nothing to do with being intelligent, because we all know that. It has to do with having the be able to have that the native draw to spit that word out.
I can't spit it out. Right? All right, I take the heat on that. But I'm not going to quit trying on how to pronounce it. So we're having Jordan. And the amazing thing about this, he did it with his incredible father, Paul, who's he's got this amazing performance track record. He's one of the biggest ultra athletes in the world. He's an ultra athlete coach up in Canada, and he'll tell you all about that. But these two, this team, along with their former stepmother, I mean, they got together and they accomplished one of the greatest things that humans could ever accomplish. And this young man did it all by the time he was 15 years old. Right. So without further ado, Marcus, let's get him on the show. All right, Marcus, man, you know it. Once again, I was in the back and I was dousing myself in kerosene because this one, man, is going to be... I
went to go get the lighter, remember? I was looking for it.
You were looking for the lighter because I was going to catch on fire on this one because it's not often. I mean, we have insane guests that come on this show, right? They're really amazing people, we got Governor Perry, we got Dustin Pedroia, Diana Nyad. I mean, we've had some incredible human beings, but for the first time, and this is why I'm so stoked, for the first time, we've got a team on, right? Just like we were in the SEAL teams, just like the Brotherhood, we've got a team on the air.
Yep.
And so that's a place in my heart that I got to tell you is the coolest thing on the planet. So let me just bring these two. Again, I gave you the little intro, but here's the thing is when you think about Jordan and Paul Romero, and you read their story and you hear that the way they describe their adventures together, their treks together, their relationship together, man, that's what, Marcus, that's what you and I are talking about. That's where the never quit mentality exists, is in that unification, that teamwork, that drive to be with each other, man. And we've got them here.
Right. And that's what, I mean, it's the crazy part about it, or the unique thing about it, is how it brought it together. So I'm not a big climber, right? Wouldn't follow any of that. Heard the name, but when you become something, like when I transitioned to being a dad, so I want to go on every adventure I possibly can with my kid. And when you're looking to do that, you look at other father-son duos who do great stuff, and how they started, and that's how I found out about them.
Yeah.
So it took me having a kid, but to get into the world. But then once you get in, you're like, man, I'm so glad I know you exist.
Oh my God, it makes the world better. So without further ado, I want to introduce Jordan and Paul Romero. Jordan, Paul, welcome to the Team Never Quit podcast.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having us on. It's an absolute pleasure.
Aloha, gentlemen. Let's do this.
All right, so I also just want to say that we got calls coming in right now from Maui, Hawaii, right? And Jordan, you're in British Columbia right now, right?
Yep, Squamish, British Columbia. One of the most beautiful places on earth.
So God bless.
Not bad, man.
Now, Jordan, what you just did now is like Marcus, like, hey, man, let's go up there and do a show.
I know. It's hot, man. Rain, flooding every day.
All right.
Or Maui. I mean, come on.
All right, Jen. So what the way we get the Team Never Quit podcast going, right? And is we got to start loosening up our prefrontal cortexes, right? We got to do a little exercise in the cranium. The gray matter up there's got to shake around a little bit, a little coup counter coup. All right. So what we do is we give a mad minute, baby. We come out and I'm going to throw 10, 15 questions at you guys. And when I start throwing these at you, just say the first thing that comes in your mind. And what I'll do is I'll alternate. I'll go from Jordan to Paul, Paul to Jordan. All right?
Or do you just want to throw the question out and first answer that comes back?
Yeah, well, we can do that.
That's mad. That's mad.
That is mad.
That's pretty mad,
well,
right?
you know who I am.
I'm a little excited about this.
This is awesome. All right. We'll do them both at the same time. Or just, be courteous. Or Jordan, you answer first. Paul, you answer second. All right, here we go. What movie, if you had to watch for the rest of your life, the only movie, what movie would it be?
Revenant.
Awesome.
Oh.
Awesome. That's heavy. That's big time. Okay, I
want to live in that for the rest of my life.
You
man.
did live in the Revenant. What are you talking about?
I love it. Hey, me and you could be buddies. I mean, we could hang out, brother. We'd have a good time.
You just
That's
literally
a good
said
thought.
his
You're
first
right.
movie.
Yeah,
I can't even top
I've
that.
already figured
I
you out,
cannot even
brother.
top that.
Yeah.
Come on, Paul. Come on, give me
But
one.
I
Is it?
will attempt. Yeah, what came to mind was Snatch.
Yeah,
That's a great movie, too.
Paul, you're on my level right
I mean,
there, dude.
That's
Right?
Brad Pitt is best.
Right?
That's my
The
Gypsies. That's my favorite.
You get the belly blue one? What'd he say?
Boxer. Big fella, fuck. That's my favorite scene, man.
Oh my God, you guys just became our new favorite Mad Minute guest. All right.
Right?
All right, here you go. Here's the next question. If you had to fight one, which one would you pick? Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Go, Jay.
Right. I'd pick Arnold.
Ooh, interesting.
For sure.
How about you,
I'd
Paul?
pick Arnold.
Fly
That was
Stallone.
bad first,
Yeah, I think I'd go with Stallone too.
I always pick. Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, a lot of people
He
like
can fight, man.
Yeah.
He can really fight.
Yeah. That's a big good
I mean,
one.
I'm sure Arnold can't. Arnold's a Terminator. He can't die. And in my mind, really, he's like the Terminator. He just can't.
Just think,
for real.
I mean, the only movie I ever thought that he was like really tough was Commando, right? And everyone else.
Awesome.
That was a good one.
I had a commando moment the other day building that chicken house, and I actually took my shirt off and grabbed the chains. Do you remember that first part of Commando? Come on, that's a guy thing, right? Everybody has
You
to.
gotta know Arnold would have old man strength, man. The dude's Austrian.
That's true.
He's
They got
he's the
man.
Terminator, and that he's got old man strength.
Old man
Yeah.
strength.
Sly's no spring chicken either, man. But Sly's only like 5'1" or something, and I don't know. I could see him going down easy.
I like where Paul's headed. Paul's analytical. All right, we're gonna dig more into this. I like where you're at.
That Sung Soo pick you apart kind of mentality.
All right, here you go. Next question. Is Google more likely to save the world or destroy it?
Save it.
Save.
I love it.
Save it. All right,
I love
cool.
I'd say save.
Yeah, all right, cool.
I see where people are coming from in terms of destroy, but I think it would save. I
Well,
don't know why.
Both.
we're perfect.
I love it.
I think it's
What
both.
would we do without it right now?
Yeah, how would we
Oh, come on,
how
man.
would we go about our days
spin in
without
circles.
Google?
We survived. Paul, we survived without the internet, brother. We can live without
I know.
Google. Yeah, I mean, come on. I just built a chicken house the other day. Damn it, I'm so. Never mind.
But it doesn't look good because now you need to go to Google and watch the videos on how to fix that
I
thing.
did do that. Yeah, well, yeah.
All right. So next one. Name the person on this planet that you would love to get drunk with just once.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Ooh,
I got Charlize Theron.
Oh my goodness. Was it the
Lord.
Italian job that got you?
All the above. No, Mad Max.
Oh, epic. Go ahead, Jordan. Who is it?
Man, that is a good one. I would have to go with.
Thinking about it. First one in your head. Boom.
I'd have to go with Mac DeMarco. He's an indie artist based out of Vancouver, the weirdest guy ever.
Right. It's got to be it's somebody you just weird because when you get drunk, all the stuff comes out.
I like,
good
because you know who I'd say? I always like to say Iggy Pop. I think getting hammered with Iggy Pop would be fun.
Ooh, yeah. that's a
George
good one.
Soros.
That's a good one.
You know? All right.
Right.
Who'd you say?
George Soros. You want to get drunk with some dude who you just can't understand, and because everything crazy happens when
You're out of your mind.
You know what I'm
dude.
talking about?
You are nuts.
Just imagine that.
Certifiable nuts, George Soros. I've never in my wildest dreams ever. Dude, you're crazy. All right. Here's the next one. Do aliens exist?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Are we alone? No.
With 100 billion other galaxies that potentially have other Earths? Are you kidding me? No chance. We're the only souls in this world, right? Negative. All right. Here you go. Ready? Beatles, Rolling Stones, or Led Zeppelin?
Zep.
I'm doing
Zep.
Stones. Which
Yep.
really? Oh, bless your heart. That we haven't heard the Stones in a while. I like the Stones. Yeah.
I saw a Zep cover band in Whistler about a month ago, and my neck is still sore. I had one of the funnest nights of recent memory. Yeah.
I love it. All right, here we go. Last one, and then I know this mad minute's like 10 minutes long, but I apologize. All right. So last one, Jordan. What's your greatest achievement?
Greatest achievement? Coming back home safely from reaching the summit of Everest and completing all the 7 summits. That's probably my greatest achievement that we're here to talk about today.
Awesome.
So I guess that's a great. Yeah,
It's the perfect answer. Perfect, man.
Good little transition.
Paul,
what's yours?
What's yours?
Well, it would be answered by the other screen, which is that curly-haired kid.
I knew it.
The day
I knew you were gonna say that. I said that too.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Hey, you're awesome
you're
dude,
dad,
man.
You're
I
dad,
knew you were gonna say it.
And David, you know how it is, but that was the greatest achievement was the day that dude came out, and in my opinion, has changed the world positively and continues to change the world, and I couldn't be more proud. It's crazy.
That's
crazy.
so cool, man.
Never thought it'd go like this. Never thought it'd go like this.
Well, how
was not in the plans.
How can you?
And here we are.
I mean, I'll tell you what, Paul, the first time my oldest, the bear, popped out, right? I'd just gotten back from Afghanistan while I was contracting. And, I had this huge, bushy, ridiculous beard, and we go to the ultrasound place, and I used to know how to do ultrasound stuff, and I'm sitting there watching, and the lady's like, oh, so talking to my wife, the Admiral, she's like, so what do you think it's going to be? And she's like, oh, I thought it was going to be a boy for a long time, but just lately I think it's going to girl. And as she's going, like, she stops between the bear's legs, and obviously there's nothing there. And she looks up at me, she goes, well, congratulations, you're having a girl. And in that second, the millions of useless tactical pieces of information in my head that I accumulated went blank. And all of a sudden I realized, my God, I have this blank canvas that's going to be in my hands here in 3 months. And I have no idea what's going to happen. And that was heavy.
You paraphrased what I always say in that all the cool things we've done as kids, as teenagers, university, and in their 20s, whatever, thought was cool. We did for the world, we did for ourselves, we did for degrees. You guys fought for our country, it's just beautiful, etc. All of that kind of goes out the window, and you kind of do a white blank. You wipe the whiteboard clean, and it's a reset button. And then it's when life starts, when we procreate, and you bring someone in the world. That you paraphrased how I explained having a kid as well. Nicely said.
Here's how I figured out what kind of dad I was. I mean, I was lucky with the men in my family, the way the women raise us here. And the men, their job is to enforce. So when my son was born, I knew that I was so excited. I waited a long time. So I spent my whole life training myself for service to my country and my crew and my friends. And then when my kid came out, I got to become the ultimate Mr. Miyagi. I could teach him, he goes religion, to fish, to hunt, to do all of that, how to self-defense and every little tactic from being in the SEALs to everything. I'm just can't wait for him to get old enough for me to teach him that. I'm just waiting. And the way we do it around here is we pass our kids around to their uncles and the aunts to learn what they can from them at all times.
That's cool.
Grandma lives right down
Yeah.
next door.
Yeah.
So, I mean, each day they go there, mess with the animals and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm more of the type of father I am is the coach, the instructor. I can't wait to teach him something and pass him over to learn the same skill from another guy from a different perspective.
Nicely said.
Valuable, because that's how I was raised.
That's and that's going to be a huge part of this show. But first, I want to start with the reason why we brought you both on, in particular, Jordan, you. All right, when we were talking about, me and the Wizard, our executive producer, and Marcus and I started talking about, all right, who needs to be on this show? We want to have the greatest, most variety demographic. We want to touch everybody. And so as we came, when Ryan told
everybody
me,
has a great story.
everybody's got a great story.
They just don't know how to tell it.
They just don't know how to tell it, or maybe they haven't had it yet, and it's coming, right? But you've had some amazing stories, and in particular, man, you did one of the biggest accomplishments that a human being can did, and you did it at 13, man. I mean, you did it at 13, dude. I went through SEAL training at like 24, and I thought I was tough, but 13, brother.
Well, let's just remember what you were doing when you were 13. I definitely wasn't.
I was an idiot at 13.
You didn't want to trust me with a rope and a carabiner.
I was a punk kid at 13.
At altitude. I know, man. I'm like, what? I was still growing, I think. I definitely don't want to be in charge of something up on Everest.
So what our listeners have been waiting for, Jordan, is if you want to, we'd love to have you do it. Will you share just the high points, or share us this never quit story, man? If that's the never quit story you want to share, there might be another one that more exemplifies what got you to Everest, what never. But go ahead and launch. What's your greatest never quit story, Jordan?
My greatest never quit story, I'd have to say, is would be on the last camp of Mount Aconcagua, which is the highest point in the world outside of the Himalayan mountain range. Mount Aconcagua is in the Andes mountain range of Argentina, down in South America.
That place beautiful.
And this was our fourth mountain that we had done of the 7 summits. I was 11 years old, just about to break the world record for becoming the youngest to summit this mountain, which is about 22,830 feet, and that's the second highest mountain in all of the 7 summits. And it was definitely a huge challenge. Where that never quit story definitely developed me into it was definitely a
Next
character
level.
and personality building experience. I remember we were waking up at like 4 a.m. On the last day. I woke up, and as soon I was hearing the wind from outside, crushing down on our tent, and I was thinking, oh boy, like we're about to do this. So we step out of the tent. It's windy. It's freezing. It's probably about like 50, 60 mile an hour winds. I'd say
Wow.
like negative 20 in temperature wise, and it was not fun. These are the parts of mountain climbing that just aren't fun. And
that definition is completely different for you than most people.
Yeah. Not fun to me. Like we.
That's how we say it too. Like we're like, oh, that wasn't fun. But I mean, when you say that, I mean, most people are like, not fun. This is torture, man. I do not want to be here. I love the way you put that. Just so like that wasn't fun.
Let me paint the picture a little more clear. It's dark. You're screaming at each other when you're 6 inches away from each other. The most basic commands. Your hands are already frozen when you get out of the tent here. There's just everything's uncomfortable. Everything seems wrong.
Awesome.
Nothing makes sense. It's dark and I'll let Jordan.
And so Jordan,
I didn't know Jordan was gonna pull this out. So this is a pretty epic one. We have a lot of epics. This is pretty damn epic.
I knew it's good that you brought one up that he was like, oh, okay, all right, let's go there. You can go there. That's what this is about.
Yeah, we want you to go there. So tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is of course a perfect story. I mean, too, with our mutual friend Ryan Bolding, he was on this expedition with us. It was myself, my dad, and my ex stepmom, Karen Lundgren, who was a very valuable part of our team and all throughout climbing the 7 summits. and a North Face photographer and filmer who was sent to climb with us from the North Face, who gave us some support prior to the expedition. And we woke up and we were about to like push up with a bunch of with some other climbers, from Italy, from Spain and Poland, and there's just people from all around the world that we're camping alongside with. We wake up and these guys just like, they open up their tent and they're like, nope, we're not going at all, and just zipped it back up. And we're like, okay, I guess we're treading wind, and breaking trail in order to get up on this what we heard what we had depicted, from the forecast to be a pretty clear summit day, in which we just had to push through some pretty hectic weather and cold weather in order to get up to. So I'm only 11 years old, and I'm definitely pretty intimidated. I can
sure.
And to also paint a picture, we're just getting up from the camp and the sun is rising, and you can see the shadow of the peak just stretch along miles, which was pretty incredible.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it's just cold and miserable, and we're just treading along for hours on end.
What's in your head right there? What's in? You got a song? Because there's things I say over and over in my head. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? It's the more miserable it gets, the more I have something for that. That's how I got these buzz, bro.
Right.
You have to have that. Do you have something like that, right? That you just tell over and over in your head.
When I'm just like,
that's me.
That's you, right?
Tidal wave alarm, tsunami alarm.
That's what I thought.
I'll just put myself on mute.
Are you okay?
Carry on, Jordan. So far, yeah.
Holy crap!
Your dad is awesome, dude. Your dad is awesome. Hey, if you got to pop off, Paul, just let us know, and we'll get you back on another day. So, Jordan, all right. So, what songs in your head? What's going on?
Yeah, dude. In my head, especially amongst like some non-technical parts where you're just like walking along like a zombie. Most of the times, like I'm singing myself a song because I don't have my headphones at that time. None of us really do. And I'm just trying to like entertain myself as much as I can and just try to like get my mind off of, all the elements around me, while being cautious. But, I'm just trying to like fulfill my mind with, more positive things, whether it's like memorabilia.
I know your dad's like surfing a tidal wave right now, but is he the one that taught you that? Like, I had to be shown that. And that's what people I think would love to know is, so it's during you don't have your earphones in, obviously, when you're climbing, because a lot of stuff we do, we can't put the earphones in because I got to be able to hear as well. And I got to be so focused on what I'm doing. But sometimes being so focused on what you're doing is the crazy part about it. So you have to somehow integrate that song into that focus. And that's what we do. That's what we have to do in our community.
State.
Right.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? It's
absolutely.
flipping that switch. And people who are trying to be proficient at anything, really, that's a part that I think gets overlooked and when people are trying to help people, like, well, man, you told me everything. What aren't you telling me? Well, I didn't tell you about that little jingle I had in my head.
Did your dad?
You know what I mean?
But
it's that little stuff right there that he has.
This was Jordan's. What's interesting about this, Jordan, and correct me but that was like your sixth mountain or your fifth mountain that you were on, fourth mountain. All right, so you had pushed yourself. You had done some serious peaks prior to that. So at 11, he had that past performance.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. I didn't know when to bring this up, man. But I go, do your ages ever clash? You know what I mean by that? I don't know how to say this, but you at 11, you don't have as much fears as you have when you're our age.
Interesting.
And you take it easier. You know what I'm talking about? So at 11, you climb that mountain probably like an animal. But now that you know that I need to tie this knot, as when you had your dad with you, of course. But I remember when we were coming up, man, I didn't have any fear because I didn't really care about getting hurt because I hadn't been hurt.
Yeah.
What's my point?
So I think what he's asking,
Wizard. What's my point? I'm trying to. Hey guys, just so y'all know, I do that. No, I cannot.
I get where you're going. Yeah. And let me interject. Jordan, at 11, you said, what does an 11-year-old know, right? Here we are climbing to the highest mountain in the world outside the Himalayas. We're going against odds. We're going against what several other teams had declined to move that day which Jordan didn't mention, 2 to 3 feet of fresh snow, 100-kilometer winds. Everything says don't go. We had a hunch, and I had information that said weather was going to improve on us in the next 6 hours, and we're going on those odds, and to know that we could move quickly and be successful at the summit. And what Jordan did have is he had so much data, so much research in his own head, and so much readings. He was so well read and so well practiced as well from reading about prior expeditions and how to be mentally tough. And he read all the readings from Ed Viestiers, and the names go on of people that have been through enormous suffering and encounters after encounters where the odds are continually stacked, and never quitting is the mantra. And so Jordan has had that in his head. That doesn't mean everything, but he's also been through not only the 4 expeditions he'd been on before, but countless training expeditions where it was on me and Karen to push him and prepare him in training, so that these hairy, ugly moments in expeditions were nothing compared to some of the training scenarios he'd been in. We went to Mount Whitney, the highest mountain in the lower 48 in California, and pushed him through ungodly conditions. It was all in the name of training and preparation, but the conditions there were just insane. So that we're in these conditions, and he's got that gear. He knows how to move in that condition, and it worked out.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'll tell you what he had at 11. He had his dad. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on a sec.
And those guys, he nailed it. I mean, his father didn't allow him to be around men who quit. And when we get to the teams, we're around guys who didn't quit.
Hey, man.
And that's the only. That's why we can do what we do, is because we're around guys who don't quit.
Here, I want to know something, Jordan, from you though. I mean, 11's 11, bud. I mean, I've read my fair share of child development, right? I mean, I'm the crazy one who digs into the books of the psychology and all that nonsense, and that's why I'm a performance coach too, Paul. And we'll get to your thing later. But what's in, I mean, obviously the training plays a role, but the desire had to be there too, huh, Jordan?
Yeah, absolutely. The desire. I mean, you got to find a balance. I think, you want to reach the summit so badly, and, some people can definitely, and this happens with all mountains, especially Everest, where people are just so, fixed on getting to the summit. And it's incredible, what the human, and honestly, it is all mental for sure, and in just pushing yourself through. It's all mental. It's just your brain that's always holding you back. But but there's always a balance you got to find with that desire to get to the summit, and also, playing it safe and knowing that, like, okay, is this really worth, my life or a serious injury, or causing a serious causing a big scene up on this route. So there's that element of desire for sure, and it's a mix of a lot of things. And to experience that at a young age was pretty
it's epic, man. It's
interesting.
It's
and
awesome.
Then it went on through the next few years, with mountains like Everest and Mount Vincent and some other, and Denali, of course, in Alaska, which are all like some pretty serious mountains to be on, especially when the crap hits the fan, and you're just it's.
So tell us about that.
But it's worth it, man. It's worth it.
So tell us about that summit that day. You pushed through that crazy weather. It broke. You hit the summit. On the way down now, you're like, is the confidence boost because you're like, hey, I can take that in the face. I can take that blow. I can take that hit.
Absolutely.
Was that huge?
You go through that door, you don't come back, man. You're
exactly
right.
Yeah, it's different. It's more different things. It's not exactly that you're thinking when you're on your way down. At least for me, like, what was on my mind was like, all right, sweet, like we're gonna go back. Like, I can't wait to get home now. Like,
sure. You know when you notice it is when your next hard moment.
You're more driven, I think, on your way down towards the comforts of the lower camps, plus getting back to Mendoza,
absolutely.
Out of, and then back home too. So I mean that's definitely a drive. But yeah, you're on the way down. You're you're greeted by so many people, from around the world, as well as other teammates. And Ryan was there, in which they were cheering for us and asking us how it was. We all sat around and we were passing around the camera, sharing video and photos, and yeah, that's definitely what makes it all worth it.
You know what makes that unique, man, is when you read all these books and stories about that you've done, you've been there. So that's what makes it unique. And so when you read these stories and hear these stories from people who haven't been there, you're like, well, that's not how that happened. that ain't how that goes down at all, man. That's not what that means at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really think about it very much, but I mean, how'd you balance that? What is your hobby? I mean, because if your hobby is if you live to do extreme climbing like that,
in the SEAL teams, we have a saying that you're a frogman 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Everything else comes on the other side. That's why we having crazy divorce rates. That's why we're just 100% full tilt. So what was your balance? I mean, obviously, and I'd like to get, Paul, your perspective on training and how you prepare an 11-year-old for this and all that. But Jordan, what did you do when you weren't thinking about Everest or the next great peak?
I mean, because that's why we don't consider ourselves SEALs once we're out, because we're far from it. I mean, we don't resemble that at all. I mean, that's the greatest part about it, is the unwinding from that. So we were just wondering.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question you bring up, because I mean, what our training was so focused around was being well-rounded, I think, and using a variety of ways in order to keep ourselves fit. We did not always stick to the gym, and mostly we went in there for some strength and conditioning purposes, but we're also doing more endurance training, road cycling, mountain bike, or cross-country mountain biking. We would trail run for miles and miles on end, and also just do local hikes of different sorts. I also have been skiing since I was 17 months old, and that's been a huge hobby of mine. That's been kind of paralleled alongside, mountain climbing as well. So, I mean, I did that as part of, staying active as well. And, that's definitely a hobby that I'm still pursuing to this day, just for the fun of it. And also, just trying to apply and make use of, all my years of skiing into exposing it possibly through web edits and whatever it may be, and through sponsorships. So yeah, that's kind of what I got going on, and that was a main hobby growing up, especially. But throughout middle school and high school, I was running cross country with all my buds, and it was that was also a great way to be training with all and be neck and neck alongside with my other high school friends too, which made it really fun as well. Because training by yourself and with your parents, that
gets old.
People want to know this guy did all this climbing, man. Did he just train in climbing? Did he just climb the damn wall every day? No, man. I went and hung out with my boys and I rode a bike, and because as well as I do, and it's kind of that when we were training to be Navy SEALs, I thought I knew what I was getting myself into. And you're probably the same way when you climb, right? When you get on that mountain, you're all the training in the world doesn't prepare you. That's where the mental part comes in.
Smacks you in the face.
I mean, as soon as you get punched in the mouth, you're like, all right, it's about to get real. You know what I'm talking about?
So, Paul, question for you. How do you prepare, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12, 13? How do you prepare them for that mental stability?
Yep. I'll preface that by telling you that, and this feeds to the question earlier for Jordan, and it's important to understand when we're heading off into a blizzard at 20,000 feet, these type of things. It's important for the listeners to understand that Jordan always had his finger on stop and go home button.
Right.
That was very important to know. Jordan really didn't do things beyond his will and want from all the expeditions. There were some dark and hungry and cold and miserable moments where we'd altered plans, but Jordan always had his finger on the button that said, screw this, let's go home. And let's get a hot meal and get the hell out of here, get on the first plane out here. He could always do that. And so it was important to know that this 6-year mission quest was about Jordan staying dedicated. And that's what was so odd excuse me, that's what was so odd about him at 9 years old and 10 years old that people were so baffled about was his drive and his sacrifices. He had skied and he had his buddies to hang out with a lot, but in the end, and Jordan told the story on an interview a couple of days ago, Jordan, where he'd come home from school, run up to our house was on a steep dirt road, come up to the house, we'd hand him a bottle of something, some sports drink or something, and he put on this huge backpack that was already loaded with full of gallon water bottles, put it at 25 kilos, and he'd go out to the end of the yard where there's a giant tractor tire, and he put the rope and the climbing harness on, and there he put his Walkman on, and he had some funny music. I can't remember what it was. It was some movie themes. It was Disney movies, Disney songs, or then he had his Elvis period too, where he was
I love you, Jordan. I love you, buddy.
So
I love you.
And
I love you, Jordan.
Put on his headphones, and he'd walk down the street, and we had this 400-meter street where he'd be trips up and down, pulling a massive load for 90 minutes after school when his buddies were ringing up and coming by to say, let's go hang at the park, let's go whatever, and he would, nope, got my work to do. And he'd do that work, and then we'd be off to the CrossFit gym to do some strength work and on the squat rack, and all this was that Jordan's commitment to do to get the work done because he knew it had to be done. From his research, had to be done to be fit on the mountain.
Jordan, that
commitment was amazing. I always joked. I always waited that one day he's going to come home and he'd say, "Dude, screw this. I discovered the basketball."
Yeah, the soccer ball, whatever it was.
And as a dad, and you guys know, as a dad, I was game to support that, and thankfully that day didn't come, at least until after the expeditions, and so it was important to know that. How did I prepare him? You asked. It was well-rounded. I've been in paramedicine, emergency medicine, and life flight, air, helicopter rescue for many years, and doing critical care.
Yeah, Paul. When we heard that, Marcus and I are both medics from the teams, and we heard that, and right then we knew, all right, he's psychotic like we are. Absolutely.
I specialized in high altitude medicine, and of course doing long fixed wing flights, international stuff. You always had to operate at high altitude, and so there's lots of physiology that goes on with that, and that all carried over into high altitude expeditions.
Hey, did he have any hyperhaste going on at that age?
Level with sports nutrition and studied how to optimize the body at high altitude using sports nutrition to the max, and then tied it in with a whole bunch of strength work and conditioning that I'd done for years, plus the mountaineering I'd done and adventure racing. We had this, and Jordan is the safety officer of the team. He was just, everything was by the minute. What we talked about, he skipped over earlier, was these benchmarks and these guidelines that we live by. Protocols, much like your SEAL team did. Yeah. We had protocols. There was no doubt about what happened at 9. If you hit a benchmark at 9 a.m., you went to plan B, and you rolled with plan B. And then at that plan D, there was protocols which Jordan loved to live by. He's a very timeline-driven, protocol-oriented kid, which I'm by that as well. But I throw it out, and I'll go to I'll constantly modify. Jordan likes to stick by a plan. And Karen, our third member, which was the super mom. She videoed everything. She cooked everything. She took care of everything. So we had this team that was so nuclear. It was gelling. Incredible.
Yeah, that's cool.
People doubted us, doubted Jordan so often until they discovered the team concept we had, and that's how we, as Jordan would always say, it came down to the team.
Jordan, as you kept going, because again, when you look at, I do a lot of work with kids. I've spoken to over 15,000 kids around America and Canada, and I've written several kids' books, and one of the things I recognize, and I think what's interesting about now is you can look back and reflect on those moments. Did you ever there's a guy from Florida State who wrote a book, Roy Baumeister, who wrote a book about willpower. When you would come down and finish those expeditions, and were there in the lulls of training, what was going through your head? Like, man, I've got 4 more peaks to go. Man, I've got 2 more peaks. Man, I got Everest to go. What was the motivation to get back into training, get back on, to put on your Elvis, which motivates me to run through brick walls. But what was going through your head in those times?
Just we just had to keep everything so consistent. Even coming straight back from a climb was when we pretty much just had to go straight back into training and just keep that fitness and keep that and just keeping it consistent so that you're not so that you just don't fall off the horse.
Right.
yeah, that's
How
the
many?
best
How many?
way out.
Every climb you've gone after, you've gotten to the summit. Is that right? Is there anything been pushed back from?
Yeah, every single climb we got to the
How
summit
about you?
first
How about you, Pops?
Yeah, same,
Yep.
same. We did them all together. It's very rare to find a 7 summit climber, or most high alpine mountaineers that have a 100% success
Right,
rate.
up and down, right? Yeah.
And all fingers and toes.
Well, that's my point too. So my brother, I have a twin brother, and we push each other nonstop. And his before we die, and he wants to do this probably when we're older. God help! We got to climb Everest. And I don't like heights, guys, at all, man. It's
Or
not
sharks.
Or sharks. It's no secret what kind of seal I was. I mean, it was all guts. That's it, right? I'm not making this up, man. So I got to climb Everest with my brother, and I'm like, bro. People lose stuff up there, and I'm not talking about a wallet, man. I can't.
Yeah.
We came back
Happens
from
a lot.
war with all our appendages, and I'm like, dude. I mean, you want to go up there when we're old? I'm old now, man. It's gonna be rough. And we may go.
Tracking what's been happening there the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's horrible. There's
Well, we just had, and I know you know Don Mann, right? So Don just tried to go up Everest, and he got cerebral edema. He got hype. And he was a mess.
Did
man.
you ever had that? Any of y'all ever had that?
None of us.
we've successfully averted that. This is
That's
how
awesome.
I like to.
Great
I would like
nutrition,
to-
great planning, great training. That's the testament to you guys right there. That really
Critical
is.
decision making. Hape and Haste, it doesn't come like a lightning bolt out of the sky. I mean, it can,
Right.
and you hear about it like that, but there's generally preceding decisions that puts one in that position. I will never disrespect on man. But there had to be something preceding that. You could point to hydration. You can point to
The same thing underwater. It goes both ways.
so on. But I always say, whenever people say, "Well, you guys had great weather," Mike, you guys had great weather. Like, excuse me.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What?
We were a small, light, fast team.
I get people.
As such, and could move on a moment's notice and pack up and move. We were so much more agile than other teams. That's one of the reasons our success and why we can hold up 10 fingers as well. Was we had that, much like your teams that you guys worked with as well, man. Could you imagine having to move 1,000 men? Every decision that you crew made had to move 200 men and plus camp. You'd be like, that would be slow and inefficient. People would get hurt. Same thing happens in these big expeditions where you guys are, you had a crew of your 5 and 7 guys that were just tight and light. And that's
Moving 5.
kind of how we
Five.
did. That wasn't by
Moving
accident.
Move five. So Jordan, I got a question for you. Because you were so successful on those, both you guys, your team was successful. In our training, we build in failure. We put the failure in. How did you?
That's the evolution, is to fail.
Yeah.
We don't. There's no way around it. That's what. How
It's
they
going to happen.
It's going to
The
happen.
instructors are going to make you fail. Period. We design it that way. So how do you process? How'd you learn to process the potential of failure or failure in your life? Where did you integrate failure in, or did you ever?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a big moment that occurred on Mount Everest, literally midway into the entire expedition. We're coming from advanced base camp to Camp 1 on the Chinese route, which we had taken there. And for anyone that doesn't know, the Chinese side is mostly known for being the most exposed route with higher winds and such, and very little glacial and crevasse.
So is that a climber preference? Is that how that works?
In order to cross over. So there was the only area that we had to climb about 2,000 or 3,000 feet vertical in order to get to. Was definitely a pretty risky place, in which there's constantly shifting of ice.
Jordan, now let me just interrupt you. I want to put it in perspective because you're going to continue telling this story that's epic. Our idea is climbing is falling rapidly out of a helicopter or what did you say your favorite thing was to do in climbing? Was
rappelling.
Rappelling. That's
our
rappelling.
I was like, oh, hey, we're gonna get along great because I climb, and they both started. All the guys started laughing. I was like, well, we team guy climb. I rappel I can rappel
fast rope. I can fall out of an aircraft rapid. So that when we hear you say you ascend 2,000 vertical feet, I mean that blows us away. So keep going on that. Tell us some details about that, dude.
Absolutely. So this is the only section of the climb in which we're having to cross over ladders, over crevasses, which I'm sure you see much of, on Everest, but that mostly occurs on the Nepal side. So we're crossing over ladders, we're hopping over crevasses as well, and we're traversing alongside some huge glacial, blocks of ice that are constantly shifting and moving around. And you always hear the cracks in the ice and the booms and the everything. And it was really, really warm that day too. We're constantly shedding our layers. And,
all right, what's warm?
We're just trekking along.
Hey, let's get specific. What's warm?
Oh yeah, it was.
What number? What does that mean?
30s. It's actually, you could be in the 30s, and that's actually hot. When the wind dies down and you're in 30s, the intensity of the sun is
off the ice, right? Kicks it up. Yeah.
Moving with a massive load, it's you sweat. You're so 30s,
Drenched.
30 degrees.
All right, sorry, Jordan. We just got to know details. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so as we're climbing, we're along this traverse in which there's clearly a huge ice block that looks like it could collapse. It's just barely hanging on there. Huge, I'd say 3 stories maybe, or 4-story
Awesome.
building height. And my dad Paul is saying, hey, Jordan, we do have to get a move on going. We can't be in the zone for that long. And this is an area in which we're huffing and puffing and just. And
working hard, carrying huge load.
We're carrying big loud loads, and we hadn't been at this altitude in years since we'd been on Denali.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just adjusting, and we're going pretty slow, but as fast as we could. And all of a sudden, boom! This huge ice block all of a sudden collapses, crushes into dust, literally, and a huge slide comes down. And takes
above or below? I missed that.
Myself
above.
And one of our Sherpas. It brings us down probably about 30 feet in distance from where we were hiking. The rope that we were the fixed rope that we were clipped into, in which we had our ascenders in, completely snapped. My ascender completely bent 90 degrees, and I don't know if you know those the ascender handles in which you unclip and then clip into.
Yep.
That had bent completely.
Oh my God!
What's the tensile on that?
It's massive.
Yeah, the tensile's on that's huge, right?
Yeah, and then my dad was right behind me. So as we get up and we're about waist deep in snow, luckily we're on the edge of this avalanche, which had unfortunately buried somebody who we had just passed by. There were 2 people that were injured, and there was one person that was injured and one person that is still on that mountain to this day. That's a heavy reminder in which that the mountain and failure itself just kind of tends to push you back and lets you know hey, it's not going to go 100% all the time. We had 100% success rate, but to have that along the way, it just can't. It's not always perfect, and especially with my dad who was right behind me, my crampons, which are the spikes at the bottom of your boots, had punctured both of his thighs and one puncture in his forehead as well. As soon as we got up and we're getting we're getting back with the team and everything, so. And then later on, I see the blood marks, on my dad's beanie, and he could tell you more about it from his end. I'm sure the shock of everything that just happened had temporarily kind of wiped out the pain for a little bit, and then slowly I'm sure it came dwelling on more. But we went up to our campsite later that day with not enough food or water to last us through the night. So. Our call was to go back down, and this ice block had left a bigger chunk that looked like it was about ready to collapse at any moment, and we had to pass through that zone, which was in order to come back down, which was definitely one of the most terrifying moments where I knew all right, this mountain has really got me by the balls here, and it's
my fate's not my own.
Yeah.
This was a big punch in the chest to us. Everything had gone so smooth, and suddenly, I'll give a little more detail. A 6-story apartment building,
really,
rack as it's called, just came off and came to us and tumbled us off away almost into this crevasse where So going back through that again, there was another half of another apartment-sized building Sirac just hanging off that we had to pass through. One of the toughest decisions I made on that expedition. And Jordan took it like a man. We went down. I had to get numerous sutures all over me to patch up. I lost a fair amount of blood. And we were back on 2 days later, packs back on, heading back up to make more camps and to keep going on. That was day 17 of our 55-day climb.
Oh, I was in the beginning.
That was right in the beginning, huh? Did you
let's go ahead and kick me right between the legs and start this thing off with. You know what I'm saying?
All the talk. It was the first death of the year. It was tremendous news in media right away, and this was not meant to go like this. So that's Jordan said it well.
Well, one of the things that I heard is that now not only are you in university, you're increasing your education, but you're also motivated to help kids out there. And I wonder if you could just share with us this concept about climbing the highest peaks in all 50 states and bringing the kids along for the ride on this. Why are you wanting to do? Can you first explain that, and then why do you want to do it now?
Yeah, so basically, like we've noticed a lot, through climbing all these mountains, that we've gotten a ton of feedback and a ton of emails from kids, after I had done speaking engagements or appeared on the media, or kids who have read my book, which we could talk about later. But in which these kids are so inspired by my story, they want to set a huge goal for themselves that they're passionate about and want to take every day to work towards making that goal happen. And that's what the idea, that's what the takeaway is, and the messages from all these climbs, especially, to other kids, and being able to relate to them at a young age is super key too. With all the speaking engagements that I do, that's not something you get on a regular basis, I think. No,
for sure. It's really, I think when I hear you talk, Jordan, I hear your focus and I hear that experience, man, I just know in my heart that you're on the path to something bigger and better. And I know your next ascent, whatever that might be in your life, man, is going to be remarkable. And as long as you can keep that guy next to you who helps you stay focused and disciplined, I'm sure, man, we're going to be hearing just absolutely phenomenal things in the future from you. And I'm hoping that because we're gonna get you back on here in a second for the After Actions report, to where you can really break it down. Both Paul, you, and I'd love to hear your insights on performance and training and the After Actions report, and then also what you want to say to those kids to get them off the couch and get them up on the mountain here in the After Actions. But for now in this segment, man, Marcus, I got to tell you, this has been, I'm blown away by these two.
It took them climbing a mountain, doing all that summiting, and how many lessons you learn that can apply to somebody who doesn't climb mountains.
Right.
Everything we heard of, those hardships, man, we've had those buildings fall in front of us, but it was different, right?
Yeah.
And everybody dealt with it a certain way and pushed past it and got to the same end game. And that's just keep pushing forward, because it's all about it's life, right? Yeah, it's life, man. Life is the toughest part.
Never quit.
That's about never quitting. Well, so I just want to say, Jordan and Paul Romero, thank you both so much for coming on the Team Never Quit podcast, and we're looking forward to getting you starting with the After Actions report. And I wish you guys all the best. God bless, and journey on and keep doing those great things.
I learned so much.
Thank you, Marcus and David, for having us on. Thank you guys for your service as well.
You're welcome.
That
Thanks,
cannot
brother.
go unnoticed. And you guys are awesome. I love the energy that you guys have on the show, and I love what you guys are trying to do.
Thank you so much. All right, that's it. We're out.
Well,
Hello.
Seriously. If my old man, Marcus, had said to me at 9 years old, boy,
I don't even think my dad was hanging out with me at 9 years old. Right? I wasn't old enough to be, for his time, his training.
Yeah. It's like, all right, my dad was working like 90 hours a week. I'd see him at games and at night for dinner for 30 minutes. But this dude is like
Oh, so you want to climb the 7 peaks, the tallest 7 peaks in the 7 continents of the world? And he says, okay, son, let's do it.
Right.
Now, at 9, man.
That's more of a love to hang out with dad, because you don't really know what climbing a mountain means, right?
At all. It seems cool, but I'll tell you what, that kid, from everything Jordan told us today, he got educated fast, didn't he?
Sure. I mean, Axe is only 5, right?
So that's...
But when he gets tired of being somewhere or doing something, he lets me know.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm talking about?
He never once, and you hit him hard on that. Hey, man.
Right. I mean, look, halfway up the mountain, if you want to go home and grab your iPad, you can't do that. So, I mean, he's got to focus, right? I mean... Good Lord, I've seen some kids when they don't get their way, it's all out, freak out.
It's like spasm.
You're not dropping down on the floor and banging on the ground.
No, when you're
strapped to the side of Everest.
When you're on a crevasse at 13,000 feet.
Hold on, then they go find somewhere to go throw a panic attack or a temper tantrum.
A temper tantrum when a 3-story ice sheet just collapsed on you.
So it's actually the best place to train your child not to have a temper tantrum, right?
I think we just found the new book of parenting, right? Chapter 5.
Right, that kid's giving you a lot of grief, strapping to the side of a mountain, ready to throw one down.
Chapter 5 on the Marcus and Rut how-to parenting book. If your child suffers from dramatic temper tantrums and you can't get it control, forget the crazy nanny, doctor.
Take him climbing.
Take him to Everest.
Yeah.
Well, what I love is Paul, and it was cool to listen to Paul, man. He's so proud of his boy, right? Yep. Absolutely. And he kept reiterating, man, this kid had this drive. It was the drive. And I heard it in Jordan too. I think he was so young. There's a lot of that we weren't able to tap in. Maybe we get him back on when he, becomes the world-class skier that he wants and talk about it a little more. But I think it's that drive. And when Paul talked about, hey, at any time, Jordan could have just pressed the button, gone away, been done. But the kid wanted to accomplish this goal, this task. And I think when you have that relationship going, whether it's a parent, a mentor, a swim buddy, really keeping human beings goal-oriented is essential in the never quit mindset, right?
Sure. I mean, at that age, you're still molding them, right?
I mean, his logic and reason and all that.
That's why I asked him. I was like, hey, you're the. How do we ask him that question? The guy, the older climber as opposed to the younger climber, is that age ever contradicted itself? Because you don't have any fear at that age, right?
I think you got unrealistic fear, right? You're afraid of the boogeyman.
And it's climbing experience. Experience, right?
Yeah.
Like I did this when I was 9. I would not do it now when I'm 20.
And I don't think he got that when we brought that.
Of course not. He's still young.
Yeah, he's still a young man. He's 20 years old, right, in college.
You and I watched that. Like we watched a SEAL documentary or watch somebody do it. I'm like, I wouldn't do that.
No, they're like, would you go back? I get all the time.
Bad that would hurt.
Would you go back through Hell Week? No. What are you, dumb? No.
I wouldn't have gone back through after ever. And let me tell you something. Those teammates of ours, I know they're badasses. They are. But they're like, I'd go through Hell Week again. Liar. Or you didn't put out the first one because that sucked. I hated every less than a second.
That's the one thing we did that we should have asked Jordan. I go, hey, will you go do the 7 again? We didn't ask him.
No kidding,
I'm going to email him. I'm going to get that out there.
Hey, yeah.
So the influence of the father, the acceptance of discipline, the drive, and I can't wait to get him in the after actions report to ask him more about the how-to. I just think they were a great guest. So if you're, no matter where you're at in your life, no matter whether you're 13, 23 or 73, there's always a chance if you want to get disciplined, you want to set a lofty goal, and you've got
or 9 years old,
9, and you got a positive role model or influence. Take on board the risk and get out there and go for something, right, Marcus?
Sure.
Just go.
And I learned so much just from the father-son aspect of it. And you got to appreciate the fact that, and every parent's like this, I do not want my son to even feel an ounce of pain. Yeah. But I know that I'm like, I need to put him in a situation where there's a chance he can get into it, and I want to see how he responds to it, because better while I'm standing here than
someone else.
Yeah. And that applies just when you're walking around at the supermarket or if you're strapped to Everest, right? Your dad's your dad.
Yeah.
His safety line is his safety line, right? And his baseline for being his dad is always going to be his baseline if you and I are strapped to Everest or if we're in the damn parking lot at the Walmart or whatever. And I just think that that's an important lesson, a valuable lesson you learn and see because of how focused this kid is.
Yeah.
And that's the baffling part about it. You see these kids that there's nightmares because their parents do not have any physical or
Emotional,
negative kind of resistance to them. And they're just terrible.
The implication of pain.
And then you see the kids that are just squared away manners and everybody's like, oh, that kid's so wonderful. But they still, for whatever reason, look, it's like, yeah, but that, he's hard on him though. We don't want that.
Discipline.
Right.
Yeah.
But you just told me this kid right here is just the epitome of what every kid every parent would like to have.
Right.
But you just told me the way he parented that child is bad and the way where his nightmares are running around. That's the way to do it. How's that work?
Yeah. I think one of the key things in that and what you're saying is, man, when you can get your child invested or a young person invested or even yourself invested, there's going to be pain involved.
Sure. And I think looking to advice from parents, here's the deal, man. When people, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate every little known fact or book that's ever been written about being a parent. But bottom line is, man, if you go asking somebody how to parent your child, that first of all, you don't even know, or even if they have a child. I mean, you got a neighbor, a cousin, a brother,
an uncle, family,
or
friend,
a neighbor kind of that has these remarkable children. What they've done, there's nothing wrong with asking them. Like, hey, man, I do that all the time.
Me too.
Every time I see a kid, I'm like, hey,
yeah,
what we do here?
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I do.
And it's one of those deals where don't be afraid to be a parent.
No.
That if it's in your gut and you're like, you know what, man, I read this and I'm supposed to, but my kid doesn't respond to that. But I'm still going to do it to him because the book says I have to.
The book says it's right.
Your child's telling you that he wants to learn a different way, kind of deal. And as a parent, man, he is so much. He's a part of you.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's something in you that can teach that kid what he needs to know. All he had to do is just be excited about doing it, and that's why my entire life, Morgan and I just did everything we possibly could. So when it was time, if we lived through all that stuff, that it was time to pass that down, and that's the best part, being the. Hey, bro, you got to know that I live every day of my life. I look at myself like a Mr. Miyagi. I think
we all think you're Mr. Miyagi.
The kids underneath this roof, man, the teenagers and stuff like that. My best day is when, at the end of the day, when we're down the barn and I'm training them like that. I'll make them work just to stretch out. Like Alan had to unload the trailer the other day.
Wax on.
Yeah. And so he unloaded the trailer, just threw the wood on the pile. And I was like, great job. Let's go work out. So I took him through the workout and hammer him. Then we come back to the pile at the end. I was like, you unloaded the trailer. Great job. He's like, thank you. I go, does that look like a great job? And he looks, he goes, it looks pretty bad, doesn't it? I go, yeah, I know it's the wood pile, man, but take pride in stacking it's behind our barn.
Yeah.
It's part of our property. It's not junk. It's junk wood to some people, but it's not. Take pride in everything. So he had to undo the whole. You've seen the pile, bro.
I've seen it.
It's as big as a room. Yeah. So he had to undo it and then stack it accordingly.
Right.
And when we were done, I was like, "Now tell me what's going through your head?
Is it effective?"
He goes, "I feel better now. I walk past it. I don't stare at it like it's something that shouldn't be there, and I'm stronger." You know what I'm talking? It's that.
Yes.
It's the funniest part about it. It's the littlest things. I mean, not only did I get some work done out of him, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Which is always a nice.
Right, his hands are hardened up.
Yeah.
We did the workout, and he learned a lesson, man. Take pride in whatever you do. And you know where I got that? Not only from my father, man, but I heard Steve Jobs talking about his daddy one day when he was talking about building a fence or something like this. Either him or one of the big billionaires. And the back side of the fence looked horrible, his side.
Yeah.
And his dad goes, take pride in both sides of the fence. We may look at this side, but somebody else looks at the other. Always take, and that's why if you strip an Apple computer apart, it looks like magic in there.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, right? Right? I mean,
absolutely,
it is, man.
Absolutely,
so take pride in it. And I mean, I see people all the time. They're like, that was his deal. I am not going to adopt that. I'm like, what? Why would you not take that on board and teach your kid that? I do.
Right.
And that's what I was teaching Alan, and that didn't come from me, but. I mean, I have no problem with adopting or taking on
influencing other people.
Yeah, man. If I see that and I write them down and I hammer every one of them. I teach my kid every single one of them. So hopefully some of them will stick.
Yeah.
Not all of them will, but he'll remember that. Especially Alan, he'll do something one day like, man, the back looks like crap.
Well, listen up. I'll tell you what. Take pride on both sides of the fence and how you influence other people. Take pride in how far you want to ascend in your life. Take pride in the fact that other people know more than you, but also take pride in Jordan's talk, the way he talks about that discipline, that goal focus, that orientation, and to recognize that it's not easy. And to understand and live that never quit mindset.
Supposed to be. It's
not supposed to be easy. Well, that wraps up this show. Please come back. Visit the tnqpodcast.com page or teamneverquit.com/podcast to find the after actions report on this particular show and all the other shows that we've had come out. You can also find the TNQ podcast on iTunes. It's on SoundCloud. It's on Stitcher. You can go to the website and listen to it on the website, where we also have incredible merchandise, shirts and hats and logos and designs. Please visit that and support us, all right? We're out here in our mission, Marcus and I and the rest of the Team Never Quit speakers and the Team Never Quit people around us, the Wizard. Our mission in life is to help inspire you, right? To light that fire that's in your gut so you can hear these great stories to go out and become legendary yourself. That's our mission. That's why we're here. And if you feel like it, if you feel compelled to, we would love it if you were to write in, go to the website, teamneverquit.com/podcast, and write in and give us your greatest never quit story. Or shoot a video and show it and submit it. And if they're good, we're going to post them on the page. If they're really, really good, Marcus and I will read them on air. If they're incredible, Marcus, what are we going to do?
Bringing you on.
You're coming on.
We want to look at you in the eyes when you tell that story.
We want you to come on and tell your story to the American people, to people around the world, because that's our mission, to help tell great stories that ignite lessons. So to the end of the show, as we always do, we always give thanks, man. And I'm going to start out. I just want to thank Marcus, and I want to thank the Wizard, and I want to thank everybody on Team Never Quit for giving me the opportunity to bring this positive message to people. I want to thank all my teammates. I want to thank my family and friends. I want to thank my father. I want to thank you, Pop, because without your influence in my life, I would never been able to climb the mountains I've had to climb, and I would have never been able to come through the valleys as well. And I want to thank God. Marcus?
I want to thank God for giving me my abilities. Thank my friends for helping me find them, my teammates, and then my loving wife, the boss, kids, and this life that I live today, and everybody out there who listens to us and supports us. And, man, I'll thank my dad. You're a mean SOB, man, but I loved you. You know what I mean? Cool. I loved him, man. He made me the man I am, and it took me a little while to figure that out. Some of the way he taught me was different than the way his granddaddy taught him. It's the way I'm different the way I teach my son. It's the evolution of the men in our family. Thank you for making me the man my brother and I have become. I owe you one on that one. I'll see you on one side or the other. Pops, love you.
That's all I got. We're out.
Never quit.